Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and today it's kind of mind-blowing. I was actually very surprised to read this, but quite frankly, this is what we're talking about. Google's manipulation of its search results is actually a lot more hands-on than we have previously believed. Now, here's what's going on, and the primary reporting comes from the Wall Street Journal, but I am using a lot of Kate Cox of Ars Technica's article for this, which I think is just absolutely fascinating. So, Kate, great job on this. Now, here's a backstory before we begin on the actual manipulation itself. Now, if you are not familiar, almost all 50 attorneys general from each state in the 50 states have basically teamed up as of this September to launch a joint antitrust probe into Google. Now, this investigation is being led by Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, who said in October that the probe would first focus on the company's advertising business, which continues obviously to dominate in that sector. But Paxton also said at the time that he would willingly take the investigation into new directions if the circumstances called for it, telling the Washington Post, and I quote, "If we end up learning things that lead us in other directions, we'll certainly bring those back to the states and talk about whether we expand into other areas." And here we go. Now, basically, according to the Wall Street Journal, Google's searching engine may not be as organic as the company has basically led us to believe, which basically published a lengthy report. The Wall Street Journal published a lengthy report onto this, and basically the way they are Google actually conducts searches. Now, I'm going to quote from Ars Technica here because I think it's summed up so nicely. Google's increasingly hands-on approach to search results, which has taken a sharp upturn since 2016, quote, marks a shift from its founding philosophy of organizing the world's information to one that is far more active in deciding how information should appear. This is according to the Wall Street Journal. Some of that manipulation comes from very human hands, sources told the paper in more than 100 interviews. Employees and contractors have evaluated search results for effectiveness and quality, among other factors, and promoted certain results to the top of the virtual heap. Now, this is, I think, absolutely fascinating because some of the examples here, I think, would probably be ripe for manipulation. And I will once again quote Ms. Cox here from the Wall Street Journal, or from Ars Technica, regarding the Wall Street Journal article. One former contract the Wall Street Journal spoke with described downvoting any search result that read like a how-to manual for queries relating to suicide until the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline came up as a top result. According to one contractor, Google soon after put out a message to the contracting firm that the Lifeline should be marked as a top result for all searches relating to suicide, so the company's algorithms would adjust to consider it the top result. In other words, the contractors were basically told, search for suicide, and anything that wasn't the National Suicide Prevention Line should automatically be downvoted so that the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline would be the first result. Now, I think that's a rather obvious and a safe thing for Google to do, in the sense that you don't necessarily want people Googling how-to manuals for suicide when we are trying to prevent that. Nevertheless, it is a ripe example of manipulation, but this is not the only thing. There is actually another thing from the Wall Street Journal regarding this, and I quote the Wall Street Journal. One of the first hot-button issues surfaced in 2015, according to people familiar with the matter. Some employees complain that a search for "how do vaccines cause autism" delivered misinformation through sites that oppose vaccinations. At least one employee defended the result, writing that Google should, and I quote, "let the algorithm decide what shows up," according to one person familiar with the matter. Instead, the people said Google made a change so that the first result is a site called howdovaccinescauseautism.com, which states on its homepage in large black letters, "they effing don't." Basically, this has now apparently become a meme within Google. The algorithms governing Google's autocomplete and suggestion functions are also heavily subjected to review, the sources said. The company has since maintained an internal blacklist of terms that are not allowed to appear in autocomplete, organic search, or Google News, the sources told the Wall Street Journal, even though the company has said publicly, including Congress, that the company does not use blacklists or whitelists to influence the results. And so, there you have it. And we'll bring this back to antitrust shortly, but there you have it. Google actually is able to manipulate their results. Obviously, they own the algorithm, but they have hired contractors to upvote or downvote specific things to ensure that as their algorithms learn, it starts to prioritize the information that Google wants to see. Obviously, I don't care what your thoughts are on vaccinations, good, bad, whatever. Basically, the results that the algorithm organically started, showing up were those that were leading to, basically anti-vaccination sites. And Google made the corporate decision to say, no, we want to support vaccinations. And so we're going to ensure that, that the first result is something that is going to debunk that, or at least make fun of it, I guess, in some way. I have not been to that website, and so there you go. There's actual manipulation. I don't care what side of the aisle you are on, in terms of, suicide prevention, which I think we're all for, or vaccinations, which I know is a little hotter of a topic. The point is that these are manipulated searches from Google, which then opens up the question inevitably, what else can they manipulate? Or rather, what else have they manipulated? Since we know they can manipulate anything, it's all data. Now, how does this relate to the antitrust? And this gets actually a little interesting. Now, Google is relying on human intervention and endless tweaks to its algorithms, as the Wall Street Journal describes. And basically, that's not an antitrust violation. But when it uses its trove of data from one operation to make choices that may harm competitors to its other operations, that's a bit of an issue. Now, all human intervention and algorithmic tweaking also affects advertising that basically results in business, according to the Wall Street Journal. Those tweaks, and I quote, favor big business over smaller ones, again, according to the Wall Street Journal, contrary to public's position that it never takes that type of action. So, for example, and according to Ms. Cox at Ars Technica, the largest advertisers, including eBay, have received direct advice on how to improve their search results after seeing traffic from organic search drop, sources told the paper. Smaller businesses, however, have not been so lucky. Basically, they are left to figure these things out all by themselves. So, in other words, Google, by favoring, let's say, eBay over an eBay competitor, of which I don't know of one, and maybe there's a reason why if I try to Google it, basically eBay receives some help in this. So basically, at the end of the day, this entire situation comes down to trust. And the problem that we have is that trust with Google and other large tech companies like Facebook, etc., is at an all-time low. Now, we have evidence of them manipulating search results. Again, no matter where you fall, we can look at, on the spectrum for any one of those two results, we can look at virtually anything that might be controversial. So let's say Google has a hard stance on something like capital punishment or gun control or any other hot button topic that, let's say, is very political, at least here in the United States. If Google's leadership has, let's say, one decided stance or another, they could very well manipulate the search results, to those that they consider favorable positions. So let's say they're against guns, so maybe anti-gun stuff comes up, even if you're searching for, let's say, the Second Amendment, which is the amendment in the United States, that is the right to bear arms. And so, again, I am not getting political here, but I can see where this would be manipulated or possibly manipulated by Google. I am also not accusing Google of doing anything like that, manipulating politics. And I know some of you guys are going to say, Nick, you're an idiot. They are absolutely doing this and all of that. I just have no direct evidence, and so I'm not going to necessarily, call out Google for that. Feel free to draw your own conclusions here, but I think it's very interesting. And so I'd like to very much thank the Wall Street Journal for, breaking this story and excellent reporting, and also Kate Cox of Ars Technica for writing, I think, just a fantastic article that all of you should read. And a lot of it you pretty much just heard, because I think her writing was really succinct. So take that for what it's worth, but Google's search results aren't always as organic as you think they are per their algorithm, and that is your news of the day. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP, and please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. Hopefully I'll come up in the search results, and as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.